Hi, everybody. This is the baseball head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Prospect Hut. And hopefully, you like this video and hit the subscribe button. We're going to start this over again. This is what happens when you don't do a lot of these streams. You don't turn or these longer videos. You don't turn the microphone on. But here we are back here at the Prospect Hut. We're going to go run through MLB Pipeline's top 30 prospects. And there's one real surprise, and that is we don't have Kevin Parada on this list. That's the Mets' number one pick in the 2022 draft. That's the first Billy Epler draft. We're starting to see some of these Billy Epler players take a major step backward, especially in 22 and 23. Colin Houck, who was the first round pick, he's the bottom of this list. So there is now pushback that the drafts were not very good under Billy Epler, unfortunately. And but he did not have good drafts with the Angels. So that sort of continues that trend, but he's no longer here. The Mets now have, of course, one of the smartest people in baseball, David Stearns. We'll see how his drafts do over the next few years. And people are very excited for Carson Bench, and he came from the University of Oklahoma. Yes, they drafted him from Oklahoma, and he's a very good prospect. He has a chance to be a major league player. And he's not too far away. So we're going to start at the top. And we've seen him in spring. This is Brand Sprout, right-handed pitcher. He's the number one prospect in the Mets system. He's 22, 23 years old. Mets drafted him twice, 22 and then a year later. A rare two-time pick by the same organization. Sprout chose not to sign with the Mets as a third-round pick in 22, but granted the organization permission to take him again a year later. New York did, this time in the second round, and signed him for a slot at $1.4 million after striking out 134 and 106 in the third innings at Florida in 2023. Sprout flew through the Mets system in his first season. We've seen him a little bit in spring training. And a couple other things. He will not have really an innings limit on him because he pitched a lot of time. He pitched a lot in college. He's a 4-year college pitcher, and that has really put him in great shape. Really great shape. The 6'3" right-hander's fastball stands out more for its velocity than its shape. Sprout will run the four-seamer up to triple digits on occasion and continue to sit in the 95, 98 mile per hour range even late in the season at AAA. But there isn't great ride on the pitch, and batters at the minor league level, top level, took advantage, hitting 380 off the fastball alone. Sprout can also work in a sinker around the same velocity band, and the extra look may be beneficial if he expands his usage. He needs a little bit of work. Not a lot, but he needs some work. He pitched 2 games for the Mets in spring. The first start was pretty good. The second start was a little uneven. Sprout was control over command in his first taste of the minors. He kept walk rates generally in check, but AAA batters proved they could bank pitches he leaves too much over the plate. That said, Sprout has the velocity and pitch mix to feature as a starter and should meaningfully contribute to the Mets' rotation depth in 2025. A lot of people are saying that he could be with the Mets sometime in May. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. He's got a chance to be a very good pitcher. Does he have a chance to be an ace? That's a good question. Will he be an ace? That's a good question. That I don't think he will be. He'll be a top pitcher. He'll be a number 3 starter, number 2 star at best, number 3 starter. That's kind of where he is. His Flores is number 4 starter, but he could be a number 2 starter as a ceiling. Number 2 on the list, Jet Williams. Mets snagged Williams with their second first-round pick in 2022, taking him 14th overall and signing him below slot at $3.9 million. The native of Texas zoomed through the Mets system in his full season, hitting .263 with a .425 on-base percentage, .451 slugging percentage, hitting 13 homers, 104 walks, that's key, and 45 stolen bases, 121 games across 3 levels. Now, what's interesting about him is the last time a Met minor leaguer walked 100 times was David Wright in 2002. So that hasn't happened in a while, and he has a chance to be a very good player. He has a chance to be an elite player if he's able to maximize his talent. And the Mets and Major League Baseball still believe in him, uh, even though he missed a good portion of last year. True to his first name, Williams can burn quickly out of the box, and he proved to be more aggressive and efficient in steals in the fall league once he was further away from the wrist issue. He had a wrist injury, as you know, he missed most of last year. Drafted as a sophomore, he split his time between there and center field in the AFL. Also saw some time at second in the summer. He'll keep moving around so long as he's behind Francisco Lindor in the same organization. And his quickness should help keep him up the middle no matter what. Now, the belief is that he's not going to be a shortstop, that his arm's just not strong enough to manage his position, that he'll probably be an outfielder or be a second baseman, which is fine. He's in the outfield, there's a little bit less wear and tear on him on the middle infield. But he's a very exciting player. I look forward to watching him. I would hope that he stays healthy. Obviously, you want to see him stay healthy. It's the most important thing for him. That really, to be honest with you. Next up on this list is Carson Benj, who was drafted out of the University of Oklahoma. And he's 21 years old, just turned 21. The 19th overall pick in the 2024 draft. The first draft of David Stearns and this front office. Mets have had, it's just the thing about having like multiple front offices over the last many years, as you lose the sort of ability of having consistency within your organization. So that's important that the Mets manage that they do not fire any more people. Tommy John surgery robbed Benj of his freshman year at Oklahoma State in 2022, but he broke out nicely as a hitter a year later. A 345 average and 1,006 OPS while making 10 starts on the mound, earning a spot as a semifinalist for the John Oler Award. He was a full-blown finalist for the two-way honor as a junior in 2024, hitting 335 with 18 homers while striking out 44 in 37 innings, and only lost out to fellow first-rounder Jack Caglione. The Mets preferred Benj as a hitter, taking him 19th overall in July, and got him 15 solid games in the Florida State League before the summer was out. Starting from an open stance that helped him see the ball well, Benj had some of the best bat-to-ball skills in the draft class and was able to make contact at a decent clip against virtually every pitch type. His exit velocities were promising as well, and he was able to get that power to plate at the opposite field. There's another way of saying that he didn't pull and lift the ball quite as much as desired, a trait that carried into the early look in pro ball. Turning on the ball in that way was the key to making Benj a 20-homer threat in the majors. Benj can get moving quick on the way, and there's enough speed in the tank to help him play center, where he made 7 of his 8 starts for St. Lucie. His plus arm strength, which helped him throw 96 miles per hour off the bump in college, will be an asset anywhere in the field. Getting Benj to focus exclusively as a position player could be huge for his overall skill set in the pros, which is what a lot of people say, is that these two-way players, once they focus in on one or the other, the one that they decide to pick excels. And we're going to see how he develops. I've not seen him, so I don't know. I can't give you an idea of what he's about. Next up on this list is outfielder, first baseman Ryan Clifford. Clifford ranked 92nd in the 2022 draft class, but a lack of showcase circuit success and a commitment to Vanderbilt caused him to fall to the Astros in the 11th round. Now, as you know, he was a guy that the Mets picked him up in the trade for Justin Verlander, during the purge of 2023, and he's sort of been a work in progress. Clifford is also a below-average runner, and even though he has the arm strength for outfield corners, majority of his starts last year came at first. His power would play there, but it'll be helpful if he can be more than a 3 true outcome plot type. He'll head back to the upper minors at just 21 in 2025, giving him time to round out the hit tool. It's going to take him time. Um, there are issues here with him. He strikes out a lot. Okay. He does get on base a lot. He walks a lot. He's got a very good eye at the plate. But his hit tool is not the greatest. He's got good power. His fielding is not great. He might be a future DH. I am very leery about rushing him. He might be, in my view, they say 2026. He might be a little bit further than that. They pushed him pretty hard last year. He did not play well in Brooklyn, but left-handed hitters don't hit well in Brooklyn. He went to Double A in Binghamton. He pitched much better there, but he's a work in progress type of player. And the Mets are going to have to be very, very shrewd and very smart how they handle him because he is going to take some time, in my opinion. He's got tremendous power. He's got a good eye at the plate, but it's going to take some time for him to develop. He's a work in progress. It's the best thing I can say about him, really. Next up is Nolan McLean, right-handed pitcher. He's currently in Binghamton with the Mets there. Now, I would mention he was supposed to start on Tuesday for the Mets against Houston down in Palm Beach. But something happened. They didn't start him. They decided to pitch Tyler McGill. I would hope that there's no injury situation with McLean because he's got a lot of talent, and he's the fifth best Mets prospect. He's flown through the Mets system, and they drafted him in 2023, 91st overall from Oklahoma State. Mets drafted a lot of players from Oklahoma State, and really this year and last year and the year before, the Mets have been going crazy from getting people from Oklahoma. I can't tell you. I hope all these guys make to the majors over the next few years. We could sort of have a lot of fun in this situation. But McLean intended to play both baseball and football at Oklahoma State, but ultimately chose to focus on the former, where he'll still play multiple ways as a reliever and third baseman, first baseman, or third base outfield. Excuse me. The Orioles took him in the third round, 22, but did not sign him after a concerning MRI. So McLean returned to post a 9.11 OPS and 3.30 ERA in Stillwater. Mets selected him in the third round in 2023 and allowed the former Cowboy to be a two-way player up until late June of 2040. He struck out 52.2% of the time through 17 games. Wow, that's a lot. I mean, that's really the biggest thing with him as a hitter. He's got tremendous power. Now, he does not have the double scan report, but really his biggest thing was the power. He had tremendous power as a right-handed hitter, but he can't make contact. And obviously, being able to make contact is kind of important. There is some of the excuse me. Now, if it's focused fully on the mound, McLean could be cleared for major takeoff in his second full season. He held his velocity well in year one, averaging 94 to 96 while topping out at 98, much as he did in college. There is some flat approach out of his low release. The real monster is his 84 to 87 mile per hour sweeping slider, a pitch with lead spin, and that's a 70. 80 is considered as good as it gets. His slider is a 70. So he's got a tremendous slider. Hope he can keep that arm healthy. Hopefully he's healthy. McLean could use the pitch while running away from righties or back-footing into lefties. His low 90s cutter bridged the gap between the two offerings, and he also mixed in an upper 80s changeup and occasional upper 70s curveball for a more complete arsenal. McLean's walk rates were a touch high in 24, but were consistent level to level. Mets officials point out that he's an ultimate competitor on the bump, tries to blow by hitters as much as he can. Settling into more of a routine will only help his case as a starter, and one who could be in Queens sooner rather than later. Now, here's the thing about him. His floor could be that as a late inning reliever because of his competitiveness, which is very good to have. Because then you can convert him if you have to convert him to a closer. And I would also sort of bring up the fact that Edwin Diaz has an opt-out at the big league club after this season. If he has a good season, he will opt out. Now, the reputation of David Stearns is he will not give these relievers big contracts. We saw that with him. He walked away from the Josh Bader. Josh Hader. He did not give him a big contract. He traded him for a bunch of prospects at the 2022 deadline. His former underling, Matt Arnold, who was the general manager of the Brewers now, he traded Devin Williams this offseason with one more year left on his contract. So if anyone thinks that the Mets are going to be so willing to jump in and re-sign Edwin Diaz to a long-term deal, don't know the general manager. So guys like Nolan McLean, keep an eye on, because I'm looking around, seeing who the Mets can develop to be the next closer if they have to go that route. Because he will go that route. David Stearns will definitely go that route somewhere down the line. So keep an eye on McLean, possibly being a guy that could be a closer for the Mets. Next up is right-handed pitcher Jonah Tong, who was not on any list last year. And in fact, the only person that ever talked about him in a video on this channel or any channel was your host. The biggest issue with Jonah was that he was a kid from Canada. He came down from Canada to play, believe in Florida, and he has been a work in progress. He's basically a graduate of the Mets pitching lab, which is going to get a lot of praise this offseason. He has a chance to be a starter. What kind of starter, I don't know. I don't know if he's a back-end starter or a front-end starter or in the middle of the rotation. But he is not ready for baseball, baseball in the major leagues just yet. He'll probably pitch in Double-A. I'll read you a couple of things. Ontario native headed stateside of the Georgia Premier Academy and MLB Draft League in 22. Well, he didn't quite stand out in the ladder. He still went in the 7th round of the Mets that July. So he's a Billy Epple guy. And that's the thing about pitching. You never know when a pitcher's going to come out of nowhere. Standing at 6'1", Tonkin looked like the second coming of Tim Lincecum, with his deceptive, over-the-top delivery and good extension. His fastball only shows average velocity in 91-95 mile per hour range, but plays well above that elite induced vertical break. And his thing, there's a lot of deception with his. Let me look at his stats, but there's a lot of deception with his delivery. And you could just let's see here. Now, please, of course, like this video and subscribe. 47 walks. Well, it's 22 walks. See, the walks are still very high. The walks were very high in 22, in 23, like I said. His walks were very high in 2022. 2023, excuse me. 22 walks in 21 innings in the first stop. 13 walks in the Florida Complex League. Oh, actually, this is the whole season, excuse me. So over 21 innings that he pitched in 2023, he threw and got 22 walks. That's terrible. That's a walk per 9 innings. That's 9. It's pretty bad. But in 2024, he cut that down to about, let me see. Let me see what that is. Let me look at my old calculator here and see what the strikeout rate is. And strikeout rate for Jonah Tong in last year was 3.74. That is quite the difference from where it was the year before. The year before was just excruciatingly bad. That's not even. That's the kind of thing you do when you get released. The walk rate in 2023 for Jonah Tong was 9.42. And the year later, which was not great, it needs to get better, was 3.74. But that is a major improvement from year to year. And he pitched in 3 different locations last year. The walk rate was really I pitched most of the games in Binghamton. In Brooklyn. But he is a guy to keep an eye on for the future, quite frankly. Probably next year. You can't rush him, especially with his control. Luis Angel Cunha, number number 7. Now he's a player we've seen. From what I could tell, the biggest thing with him is the power. Okay, I think he can play every day. In my view, from what I've seen of him, I believe he can play every day. I think he has a chance to be a very good everyday player. The biggest thing is his power. Can he hit for power at the big league level? If he does anything like between 10 and 20 home runs, the Mets are going to have a very good player there. He did not play well in AAA last year. Everybody knows that. And everybody knows that when he got to the Mets organization, it has been a struggle for whatever reason. But he played really well down the stretch last year, over a 2-week period, playing for Francisco Lindor and playing for a playoff team. And he played in the playoffs. He had at-bats and he had innings for the Mets in postseason. And that can't be sort of forgotten about. And I haven't forgotten about it. Where he is this year on this roster, I couldn't tell you. I don't know if he's going to make this team. I know they're playing him around a lot. They're playing him in AAA. At third base, excuse me. They're playing him at second base. The problem with him is that he did not play well last year in AAA. So it's kind of difficult to sort of give him like the job. And he hasn't had a great spring, by the way. Hold on, I need a drink. He's not had a great spring. Unlike, say, Brett Beatty, who's had a good spring. There is a competition between the two of them. But really, it's a question where that power is. If he has that power, he's got a chance to be really good. And be an everyday player because he can steal bases, he can play the outfield. He's got good hands at shortstop. He's got good hands. He's very quick at short. Very, very good. Very exciting player. And number 8, Jesus Baez, who sort of popped up all of a sudden. Not to your host, not to you if you've been following the channel. He's popped up now. People have been talking about him. And he's climbed up these lists very quickly. And he is 19. He's 20. Just turned 20. Just turned 20 a few weeks ago. Baez was far from the Mets' biggest international addition in January 22 when he signed for $275,000. Right-handed slugger was named New York's Dominican Summer League Player of the Year that first summer when he finished with a .744 OPS and 7 homers. Baez's power blossomed 24. He's managed a 104.6 miles per hour per 90 percentile exit velocity. The infielder will clock occasionally solid home the first times, but he isn't expected to be much of a runner as his body matures. The knee injury brings another question mark to his overall athleticism, but the Mets are hopeful that he'll at least return to 24 levels after a long. He had a very good year last year, but he had an injury. He's a few years away. According to them, 2027. I don't have much of an opinion on him. I haven't seen him. Have not seen him. Elian Pena. Now, if you could figure out what a 17-year-old is going to do 8 years from now, or according to this, 2030, good luck. He's considered the second best international player that isn't Roki Sasaki. And the Mets spent a lot of money on him. And they only spent money on him, really. Mets gave him $5 million. And $1.261 million went to the other players. People comparing him to Rafael Devers. It's very early in his career. His hit tools are 60s, powers are 55. He's 50 overall. I can't tell you how he's going to be. Couldn't tell you. A guy I can tell you how he is Ronnie Mauricio, who the lone prodigal son, after basically ruining his knee last offseason, is back. And there's so many people that are so excited that he's back. Now, we've seen him play in the majors with the Mets in 2023, the last month. He's a very exciting player. A lot of people get very excited talking about him, watching him. He's got a chance to be very good, but he has to stay healthy. We'll see how he recovers from that knee injury. There were things about his game I was totally and completely in love with. He's got an excellent throwing arm. He's got good hands. He's a good fielder. He's got tremendous power. Whether he can hit and be disciplined, that is the issue with him. He's got a chance to be a good player. And the fact that the Mets still have him on the list, the fact that Major League Baseball has a lot of respect for his talent, tells you exactly what's going on. He has a chance to be very, very good. Still. But he has no place to play right now because he's got a lot of guys ahead of him. Because last year he was going to get a long look as the third baseman on this team, but he got hurt. And unfortunately, when you get hurt, that's the worst thing that can happen to an athlete because you can't compete. Next up, number 11. It's Drew Gilbert, another player that's been hurt. Now, his stock has taken a bit of a down return because of the fact that he was hurt last year and didn't play well when he came back and didn't really play well in Arizona Fall League. He was a guy they picked up. The other player they picked up for Justin Verlander. And it's going to take time to get his stock back up. He'll start the year in AAA. He was going to be the everyday. He was going to be an everyday player last year, but he hurt his hamstring in the first week of the year in Syracuse, and he never recovered. And we didn't see him until July. It didn't seem to be that bad of an injury, but he couldn't get healthy, and he can't get hurt. If you're going to be a good player, you cannot get hurt in the minors. It's the worst thing that can happen. And he's 24 years old. He's getting to that. He's getting onto the edge there of oblivion, unfortunately. Jeremy Rodriguez, number 12 on our list. He's a player they picked up from the Tommy Pham trade. One of the best international players that was signed in 2023. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a very good swing. What kind of player is he going to be? I couldn't tell you. He is not too far off from. If he has a good year this year, he'll be a top 10 prospect at the end of the year, if not higher than that. He had a good year last year. He had a good first year, and his inaugural season. But he's many, many years away. He's a long time away. We're going to be waiting a long time for him. He's a left-handed hitter. He played really well in Florida Complex League. He is many, many years away. So it's going to take time. We see when they think he'll be ready. 2028. Who knows at this point? Who knows at this point, folks? Jonathan Santucci, who's next on our list. The Mets drafted him last year, second round. Left-handed pitcher. The biggest thing with him is that he has had injury history. He has an injury history in college because he pitched for Duke University. Mets drafted a lot of college players last year, a lot of college pitchers last year, and he was one of them. A lot of guys that have had injury histories, but they all have huge upsides. I've not seen Santucci because obviously I'm not, busy watching Duke University, Duke baseball, But he and when they say he's going to be ready to say 2020, said, there's no rush for him. Got to see if he can stay healthy. That's the biggest thing with him. And he didn't pitch for the Mets last year. Number 14, Boston Barrow. And he was drafted in 23 by the Billy Epler front office. He's a guy that has a chance to be sort of basically a utility guy right now. Let me see what his tools. I mean, pretty much everything's average or slightly above average or average or high, pretty much even. He's going to be playing everywhere. A little bit in the outfield, a little bit in the infield. He's got some time. There's no rush on him, obviously. They say he'll be in the majors by 27. So he had a good year last year. Some good numbers from last year. Not bad. Hit 278 in St. Lucie and Brooklyn. Not a lot of power there from so far. Not a lot of power. Only 4 home runs in the minor league so far. In 102 games. It's not a lot. That's not saying much. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on him. Mets draft him eighth round. Next up, Marco Vargas, a player they picked up in the David Robinson deal. He was signed in 22 by the Marlins. Left-handed hitter. The Mets are high on him. Teams are high on him. But he's many years away as well, and he was hurt too. One thing about last year's positional players in particular, all had injuries. So that's difficult to sort of stomach. Next up is Blade Tidwell, who could be a factor this year for the Mets. He could be a factor for the Mets this year. Hold on, Agent. Go. I've not seen him much. I've not seen much of him. But the Mets are very confident, feel good about him. He will contribute. I'd be very surprised if he didn't contribute this year for the Mets. So he's a player to keep an eye on. Justin Jerry down on the 40-man roster, so the Mets would have to make some moves to bring him in. Next up is Trey Schneider, a player they drafted last year. Let me read you his, and he's 19 years old. The state of Missouri produced 3 quality prep shortstop prospects in the 2024 class. Diamondbacks' 4th round Titus Kissel was seen as having the best athleticism of the trio. Drew Dickerson was the most physical, but when undrafted on his way to the University of Oklahoma, and Schneider, Missouri's Gatorade High School Player of the Year, had the most polish and highest floor. He went to the Mets in the 5th round, but signed for roughly second round money with a $1.32 million bonus. Schneider played in 6 games with St. Lucie to mark his pro debut. The former Tennessee commit impressed amateur scouts with his good swing decisions as a righty hitter. That hit tool was part of the reason why New York decided to give him a quick look at the Florida State League. And the approach could help him take off even more quickly in return there this spring. There was some concern about his power coming into his senior year, and that remains to some degree even after he added strength. If he continues to hit the ball harder, there is the upside of a 20-homer hitter in his 6'1" frame. Schneider could flash plus run times when he really got going, as a high schooler, but his added strength did slow him down some when it came to going home to first. He has the hands and internal clock for shortstop, while his arm strength and limited range could make him a candidate for third, where he made a pair of Florida State League starts. So I don't know much about him, but he's many, many years away. Many years away. Next up, at number 18, outfielder Nick Morbido, who we've seen him a little bit in spring training. And Gary Cohen called him a piece of the Mets' future. He's got a chance to be a very good player, probably a 4th outfielder. He pushes harder. There's not a lot of power there. He's got tremendous speed. He's going to steal a lot of bases. He's got a chance to be a very good player. He's a good defensive player. Doesn't have great arms. Probably in left field more than anything else. But like I said, his big tools is his speed. He stole 50. He basically stole last year. Had a lot of steals last year. Let me check out his stats. Now, if you like this video, please, of course, like it and subscribe to the Prospect Hut. I screwed the intro to the channel, to the show. Let's see. He had 59 stolen bases last year. So tremendous year. And on base percentage of 403. So he'll start the year in Brooklyn. But he won't be there for long because he spent most of the year there in Brooklyn. Maybe he'll start and then he'll go to Binghamton. So maybe he won't be in Brooklyn this year. He'll be in Binghamton to start the year. But he's a tremendous talent. He's got a chance to be a very good outfielder. Next up, number 19, Nate Dome, another pitcher the Mets drafted this year. Let's see what his deal is. He's another guy that's had some injuries in his past. A reliever out of Ball State, 22, transferred to Mississippi State. There are issues with his health, and that's something that, and he did not pitch for the Mets last year, I don't believe. No, he did not. So he was third pick, 82nd overall. He throws hard, but there's work, and he has to stay healthy. Next up is a catcher, Davison Gutierrez, and another guy that did not make this list, which I was surprised about, was Giovanni Rodriguez, which was the guy they drafted, signed last year. From the international field, and he's not on this list. I was very surprised he wasn't on here. Gutierrez was the Mets' big international signing in 23. Is a $1.9 million signing out of Venezuela, and Rodriguez was a guy they drafted last year. So I'm very surprised he's not on this, because he was considered the best prospect last year. I don't know much about Gutierrez, so I can't give you much of a scouting report. Just go through a couple things. Got hit tall. Doesn't run, obviously, according to this. He's work in progress. They say 2029. And he's 19 years old. Next up, Jacob Reamer, who is not too far off from the majors. He had an injury, too. Another guy who was hurt. His draft status, his prospect status dropped a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be issues with him just to keep him on the field. He didn't play well in the Arizona Fall League last year. It's going to take some time with him, for sure. Next up, Christopher Suaro, who I saw little bits and pieces of him because SNY played a lot of games on the Brooklyn Cyclones, Binghamton, and Syracuse, and seen him quite a bit. He seemed to pop up all the time. He's sort of a utility man, but he's a utility man that can catch, which is unusual. I think he'll be in the majors from what I saw, and he can run. This is crazy. He's got a 60 run total. That's crazy. But I think he has a very good chance to be, a player that'll make it to the majors. I think he'll be in the majors. I'd be very surprised if he did. Eli Serrano III, guy they drafted last year, the 4th round. This is a kid that played with Ryan Church in high school. Serrano was a high school teammate of Ryan Clifford. Now, the issue with him was the power, which is, he has good power. People think that he has good power there, but it hasn't developed. So that is somebody to keep an eye on. The Mets took a lot of players, okay, in last year's draft, and I said this before, that have high upside. He's one of these pitchers, one of these prospects that has high upside. So always watch out for him. Jonathan Pintaro. Now, here's an interesting thing with this young guy, is he's not so young. He's 27 years old. But he was pitching an independent ball last year. And he has a chance to help the Mets this year. He has a chance to really help them, which is surprising. Out of the bullpen, in the rotation, and he's not in the 40-man roster. He has people are very excited about him from the things I've heard about him and read about him. So you got to keep an eye on him. And obviously with his age, he's not going to, you got to make sure that, and he pitched well in the Arizona Fall League. He pitched well in Syracuse. He's got a real chance to make it to the majors this year. If not, he's going to make it. Edward, barring injury, of course. Edward Lantigua, another guy they signed out of the amateur players, 18 years old. Ranked as MLB Pipeline's number 42 international prospect in the 24 class, Lantigua joined the Mets for $950,000 out of the Dominican Republic. Only Giovanni Rodriguez signed for more in the organization last year. See, again, why this is the one glaring thing that was not there that I was surprised wasn't there was Rodriguez wasn't on this list. I've not seen him. Okay, and at 18 years old, it's very difficult for me to judge him. And according to this, 2029. So who the hell knows when he's gonna be here? Don Hamill, he's still around. He went on not unprotected this offseason, and he's still considered a prospect. And he could be, and he's not on the 40-man roster. He is of the Zach Scott Mets, drafted in 2021, third overall. So he has not pitched well in AAA at all. But the Mets didn't give up on him, other than they didn't put him on the 40-man, and nobody else picked him up either. Other players got picked up, this past Rule 5 in December. Nate Lavender was picked up. He was a reliever, lefty reliever, but it's hurt. Mike Vassell, who they also drafted that year in 21, he has not. He went to the Red Sox. The Red Sox picked him up. A couple other guys to keep an eye on is Calvin Ziegler, who the Mets drafted the same year and has not been healthy at all. And, of course, can't forget about Matt Allen, who was drafted in 2019. It's how long ago. And he's a guy that the Mets still believe in, because they didn't release him, and they still believe in his talent, and they believe him, I would think and assume, as a person. So they really like him as a person, or they would have given up on him all many years later. Next up on the list, and we'll get to the end of the list, Ronald Hernandez, a catcher. He's a guy that the Mets picked up, again, with David Robertson. He's another year or two away. Catcher. Play first a little bit. There's still some work that needs to be done here. I don't know what kind of player he's going to be. Next, A.J. Ewing. This is a kid that it's probably going to be, if he makes it to the majors, as a utility player. And everything's pretty much average across the board with him. Number 29, Jack Winninger. Let's drafted him 2 years ago, 6th overall pick. And again, pitching is the one thing that if you get the guys in the right situation, you can get a great pitcher out of them. So I'm just saying that to keep things very honest and straightforward. I have not seen this pitcher, so I can't tell you what he does. They had this sort of scan report. And finally on this list, surprisingly on this list, is the Mets' number 1 pick in 2023, Callan Houck. You talk about a precipitous drop as a prospect. 2 years in a row, the Mets' number 1 pick had been a disaster. Billy Eppley had a reputation before he came to the Mets of not doing a good job with the drafts. It continued in 22 with Kevin Parada, where he's not on any list, very few lists. And now we got Callan Houck, who's at the end of this list, and he was a top 10 prospect last year. Very disappointing. He strikes out a lot, and that's the problem. He doesn't make enough contact. And you can see just by going over his scouting grades, it's not great. 40 hit tool, 45 power tool, 50 run tool, 60 arm. Fielding is 50, overall is 40. There's nothing special there. But he's only 20 years old, so we must give him time. But that's not a good start. He's not had a good start to his career here with the Mets. We will see, but you let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe to Prospect Hut. I'll try to do these longer videos for you as much as I can. And, of course, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.